sure why that.
Hello everybody!
Hello everyone, how are you today?
How is everyone out there in the land? I think this has been an almost completely error-free startup today.
Well, apart from the back end errors, so to speak.
I hate it when I get back end errors. More fibre, the doctor tells me, but I don't buy it myself. I think it's just
I have the opposite problem.
And today it's discuss your bowel habits with Robin and Pete.
Why not? We've done everything else.
Yeah, but I don't think people want to hear about our bowel problems.
Almost literally scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Even then, it's still not clean. Who have we got this afternoon in the house? We've got Mr. Marlowe, we've got Drop Bear, David Henson, Milky Paint, Sean Wallace, Sylvester Back, and Horn Rat Minis. Hello, and welcome aboard. I'm going to have to give Matt a poke because we haven't seen Matt in a few weeks. Matt and Lars, where are you? You're like 50% of our viewer base.
I'm going to say they've obviously found something else to do on a Tuesday evening.
Yeah. Be fair, it's always, it's just disgraceful. Right, well, here we are this evening. Suddenly a very different set of weather to the last time we all met up. Or was it quite hot last time we talked? Because it was last Tuesday, wasn't it? So it was toasty then.
We didn't do last Tuesday, we did the Tuesday before.
That's
right. I can't remember now. That involves remembering more 2 weeks ago, and I have no idea what happened 2 weeks ago.
That is true. Think about 2 weeks ago, what stage the studio is in and where it's at now. It's just immense. Yeah. Elathain Lazor's just arrived. Hello.
Are we on?
Sorry?
Are we on?
Oh, shit. Yeah. We are. What are you on about?
Okay. My feed isn't working.
Your feed isn't working?
I'm just looking at... Oh, I see. That's weird. There we are on. Phew.
We are. I know we're on. I could say it wasn't. It wasn't that you ballsed it up.
For some reason it was playing. It was just playing the hang on to your butts thing. It must have reset itself and was just playing that. And I was thinking, oh my god, because it was doing it for quite a long time. So I was thinking, oh, we must have while I was watching.
Oh, I see. But you weren't. So
I apologise.
We've also got Rosa and John Grant in the house as well. Hello. This is becoming a real patron chatathon, these, which is great. Obviously, if anyone's watching who isn't a patron member, then welcome aboard as well. If you're watching this later on, hello.
Yeah, you can get this level of excellent chat 24/7 more or less.
Yeah, pretty much.
Discord.
Typos and all.
We talk about everything from gardening and politics to Underworld. And
Sometimes.
Other games too.
Underworld's online now. There's a little story of the little game that could almost. I mean, it bounced back a bit. I don't know what it's at now.
The little game that could.
It was up to like 700 at one point online at once, which is mad, really. It's up to 100. It's at 100. It's at 170 at the minute. That's not bad.
That's pretty good, yeah.
I mean, it was up to like 780 at one point, but then it dropped right back down because I think people went back to work and school.
It's a weekday.
Yeah, it's a weekday, 170 people online compared to what it used to be, which was like 12 or something like that. So it's definitely improved. I definitely am going to have to get Garrick's at some point and try and play them again, I think.
We played it.
Sorry?
Well, not quite over a year, but 361 days or something like that.
Oh, we've got Throw Them Dice in the channel. Hello, Throw Them Dice. Welcome aboard.
I really ought to sort of start it up again.
Yeah, I feel like
it's just time. It really is time.
It really is.
Get time to do a third of the things I wanted to.
It's free until the 14th, says Dave Henson. So, I mean,
Okay.
So it's got about a week to go. So it'll be interesting to see if it hits similar numbers.
If you download it, that's it. You get it.
I think so.
You've got to pay for the warbands. It's not like free to play until they stop making it free to play. It is you can download it for free and then carry on playing, which I think is brilliant. And in some ways,
presume so.
Possibly should have been the way they went, but it's easy to say that with hindsight, isn't it?
Yeah. I think possibly doing it that way would have been better from the outset. Just make the base game free. Some of the people complaining about it, they're like, "Oh, I got this game and it's free, but it only has 2 warbands in it. You have to buy the others." Like, yeah, that's literally how all digital content works these days. Have you been living under a rock for 20 years?
How most things work.
Yeah,
really.
Exactly.
Very few things you just buy and everything just keeps coming for free.
Exactly. It's just
I bought this pasta and I used the first set of pasta and then I had to buy more.
I bought this pasta and there was no bloody sauce with it. What nonsense is this? There's no plates, no knives and forks. Disgraceful. He's a bit
like you need. You don't even get the water to boil it in.
And I had to pay for the bloody electricity. It's a scam. Don't buy it. Pasta. It's rubbish. It does feel a bit like that. They'll complain about everything, won't they? Lazarus is online as well. Hello. I think we give people a few more minutes to filter in before we crash on with things. We can talk about nonsense in the meantime. I mean,
I have been genning up on Warhammer Age of Sigmar.
Ooh.
Soulbound. Not the new Dominion. Forget that. Well, probably is a kind of between the two. I'm quite interested in the Dominion set and where that's taking the story, and I'm quite interested in what that's going to impact Underworlds. But then I've been looking at Soulbound because I don't know if you've seen it, Pete. I shared it in the Patreon Discord. They announced yesterday, I think, a new source book where you can play undead characters. So
I did see that.
You can play. Don't know how it works. You can play Bretonian. I'm going to joke myself today. You can play what they call corpse grinders, or no, not corpse grinders. That's,
they're the flesh eater courts.
Flesh eater courts. That's it. And you can or maybe a Nighthawk, which is pretty cool. And then I was looking at all the books that are available, and there's quite a few available as PDF. There's not so many available as physical books, but there's a bestiary and there's a massive campaign thing which looks really cool. And a whole load of new order races and things you can play. So I'm getting it's a bit of a rabbit hole, really. I'm like with a new idea and a rabbit hole. I'm down there.
Oh God!
I'm down there. Won't make any content. Come back up and find another rabbit hole in a couple of weeks' time.
I do like the idea of being able to play a bad guy in that kind of setting, and I think there was many years ago when I had more hair and friends. I remember us trying to make like a set where you could be like
the inverse of what you are now.
Yeah.
So you had a lot more hair up top and a lot less on your chin.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all migrated south. But I remember we tried to create like
when you get old.
Yeah. All falls off your head and lands on your back. And we tried to create.
Everything goes south.
It does, yeah. Gets saggy. And I remember trying to create. We did create it was crap, but we created like a Skaven role-playing game where you could be Skaven, and yeah, it was all like the politics in the underbelly of the Skaven sort of Skaven blight strongholds and that kind of stuff.
That sounds cool.
I mean, I have fond memories of it. It was probably absolute dog shit if you looked at the actual rules side of it now, but back then it was good fun.
Yeah. Wouldn't matter if it was dog shit. We had a good idea, good time.
Exactly.
I might change that statement. I'm not sure it actually works.
Well,
it's dog shit.
If you're playing with dog shit and you're having fun, keep at it. It is the party line.
So I'm in a bizarre situation on this Soulbound thing where it actually interests me a little bit more than the Wolfrup, which I wasn't expecting to ever be in that situation.
Interesting.
I think it's because the Wolfrup stuff, although I mean it's great, there's they've brought out loads of stuff. Cubicle 7 have brought out loads of stuff to do with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, particularly for the old Enemy Within campaign. They've completely revamped it, and they've taken like 30 years of play testing and rebuilt the series for fourth edition it is now, I think. And but somehow it's because it's not new, and because even though I railed against it and I was very sad, that kind of for me is done now. The old world is finished, and you're playing in a world that isn't going to evolve, even though people say probably will evolve it. So it makes no sense whatsoever. Whereas everything with Soulbound is fresh and new and different, and it's building on Games Workshop. Again, I don't particularly like some of the aesthetics of the AOS models, but they're just churning out crazy shit. What a better word?
Dog shit, crazy dog shit, or just regular shit?
But back again, but crazy ideas, and then the sort of, I don't know how much they talk to one another, but the
the developers, not
seven guys, Emmett Byrne, I think his name is, are kind of building it into a playable world, much like the old world evolved 30 odd years ago. And I find it really interesting. Like the idea of playing a Nighthawk and actually finding, or even actually maybe get some. I know there are books of lore and stuff that probably explain it, but even to get some insight into what it might be like to be a member of the Flesh Eater Court is potentially interesting, I think.
I'd love to do it where you set it up and you get your players together and you're like, okay, so you're a knight, you're his squire, you're this person, the man at arms stuff, but actually they're Flesh Eater Courts, but you don't tell them that. So they go riding into a village and everyone's like, oh my god, and starts attacking them. They're like, oh, the peasants have gone crazy, we've got to kill them all this kind of stuff. And then at some point you then end up breaking that fourth wall or whatever it is, where they suddenly realise, oh, I'm a Flesh Eater. Oh,
that would be fantastic. Can't do it now though, because we all know.
Yeah, that's true. I've got an idea for a role-playing game, Robin. You be a Bretonnian Knight. No, not doing it. And it's a bit like the old Fighting Fantasy game. Do you remember there was one where you were called, I can't remember what it was called, but you were basically a monster. You didn't know how you got there or what kind of monster you were or anything. You couldn't talk, and anytime you came into contact with another creature or being, it would talk, but you didn't understand it. So most of the time you just killed things whenever you came up to them and stuff. What one was that called? People will shout out the comments now. It was one of the early ones.
One, I think.
You think? Yeah, maybe.
Well, maybe, I don't know, because I'm quite a lot older than you. So.
True, but I remember playing the original Warlock of Firetop Mountain stuff as well, because I went back to the very start once I discovered them. So
up to about 8 and 9, and then I used to buy them but not play them. Oh, so starting a trend.
Never played them. Never played them properly. I was like, okay.
I played the first 6 or 7 properly, and then I realised if you didn't, it was a lot quicker and you could see everything and succeed.
Yeah.
I played Forest of Doom properly. I remember that was the first one I ever got, Forest of Doom, and I played that properly, and I had to do it 2 or 3 times before actually getting through it.
I think the only one I ever completed was Arena of Champions, the one where you ended up going through a big like maze or something. You ended up in a big like arena and you had to basically collect people to fight for you and stuff like that, and then you came up against these other things. And yeah, I think I completed that one. I'm not 100% sure. I might have completed it, but I don't remember actually properly finishing any of them.
I thought we should shout out our friend Mike and his Destiny Quest books, because he's written 4, I think now, Destiny Quest books, and they're really good. If you do like solo adventures, Fighting Fantasy style solo adventures, Pete, sorry, did I bore you? I assume he's looking for a book. Is that the 4th one?
This might be the 3rd one. Oh, is this 4th one?
The 3rd one. Yeah,
it's book 4. It is book 4, you're right.
4, yeah. They're really good. They're really interesting, and you actually get character progression in them.
They're thick.
They are, yeah, and they're hefty. And I believe he is bringing the series to some sort of role-playing game system with it on Kickstarter soon. So, yeah. I don't know if you are looking for something to read and you do like a bit of Fighting Fantasy, I would thoroughly recommend those.
There must be a real trick to coming up with the... Because obviously you can come up with a storyline and you can come up with a few paths through it, because you just got to create like a flow chart, tree diagram or something to come up with your story, and then come up with your page numbers and then go from there. But from what I understand, this one, there's a real element of it where you can end up back at a base, and then you can go out and do stuff and come back to the base, then go out and do other things and come back. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's a whole nother level of cleverness.
But also, rather than the old Final Fantasy where it was just you know, you didn't really, your decisions didn't affect. They obviously affected the event, but they didn't affect what happened to you and how you turned out. This does, so it's almost like more like a role-playing game in the sense that your decisions or whatever actually change the way your character can later interact with the book, which is really very clever.
And not in a, did you drink the blue potion in the round room? Yes, I did. No, I didn't.
Boy, there's still a bit of that.
Well, yeah, there is some of that, yeah. Like, no, I still have my finger in the page.
Old,
finger in the page.
4-finger bookmark or whatever.
Valentin's in the house. Hello, Valentin. Now, one thing we were going to talk about tonight, of course, was the Straight Outta Shadespire tourney that we did just cover at the weekend.
We talk about that first before we move on to the Soulraid.
We'll do that on first.
It's a good time, a good segue. It was a really fun experience commentating on Straight Out of Shadespire this weekend. We haven't done that many. It was the first one we did together.
It was.
Which was very exciting.
I think it worked a lot better with us together. I mean, people will be able to tell us, but
I think it was better.
Much less
easier to know what was going on.
Oh God, yeah. It was so much easier to be able to talk to each other, but listen to the game, and not have to listen to each other and listen to the game, and God knows what else. But I mean, the games themselves, we've covered 2 now, but we've only covered 2, but they were both, all the games that we've covered in them have been absolute. Is it 3?
I think we've done 3. Anyway,
3.
Not by the by.
Anyway, all the ones we've done, I don't think we've had a game where we sat there and gone, this is a bit dull. Even when we were watching the game, which was the Eyes of the Nine versus the Sepulchral Guard game, which was a very thinky game, there wasn't a lot of fighting going because they were both sort of objective grabbing. Even then, it was still like...
We've done 4.
4? Well, maybe we have. I mean...
We've definitely done at least 3.
My brain's terrible. But even the slower thinky games were still really interesting. Like, what are they going to do next? How are they going to get out of this situation? You can sort of see what they're gearing up for and things. And I think next time round, when we cover the next one, whenever that will be, it might not be till September now, but we might have to try and get the deck. Yeah, we might have to try and get the decks in advance so we can keep an eye on what the players have got up their sleeves, as it were. Because when we watched the final, we already knew what the vampire player, I forget his name, but we already...
G.
Yeah, G. We already knew kind of what his shtick was in his deck.
Part of his game already, hadn't we?
Yeah.
But there were some amazing decks. I was really... Because it was full championship, and I was really quite surprised how varied the decks are. I don't know whether that's a reflection on the competition, in the sense that people... I try and get for more fun rather than just kind of to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I almost feel like the winning is not actually that important to all the players.
It's nice to have, but it's like just an incidental. Almost.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people do want to win, but they don't want to win so much that they take mod. Because there were some really interesting decks, and there were 2 young players there who had not only fascinating sort of decks, but they also had they were just so good at the game.
Yeah, and the decks weren't your average run in, smash things to pieces kind of decks. They were actually like the Sepulchral Guard player. He had quite a thinky deck there, which was like...
Yeah, I mean, that deck was... he's I think his dad's a good player, but has perhaps won a Straight Outta Shadespire, so he plays highly. But clearly it runs in the family, because he was really good. And I think I'm actually going to pilot that deck on Thursday against Pete's Reapers, or rather Martin's Reapers.
Yes.
And I'm dreading it, because I think I'm going to get absolutely annihilated. Whereas he did lose, but he lost, what was it, 28-21 or something like that?
28-23, I think. It was a huge
23.
score.
I mean, I don't think I've ever scored that much. Let alone both of us scored that much.
Yeah, I think 23 is probably the closest we've ever got to. That was about it. As Valentin says,
the next one is on the 3rd of July. Will be a Vanguard tournament. So I don't know whether you're around or not, but we tend to do these
not,
every other month.
Yeah, we tend to do them every other month. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make this one, so the next one we do might be, because I think Val said that it's not going to be one in August because there's all the holidays and stuff. So the next one will probably be September after that, so it'll probably be the next time we
I can't quite believe that much of the day of the year is gone.
It is mad, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy. And I guess that by September, that'll be the last one before Season 5 lands. And then, yes, we do have a viewer who is from Russia on, and I wouldn't have a clue how to pronounce your name, I'm afraid. So, but welcome aboard. Thank you for joining us.
My chat broke.
The chat's broke
again now.
Oh,
yeah.
So, yeah. So if once that comes out, Val, once you've got the sign-ups out, do let us know. We will definitely share them around as well, because it'd be fantastic to see how a Vanguard format version goes. I reckon that'll be really, really interesting. I predict lots of Ravagers near the bottom of the table, and I think it's going to either...
There's only Ravagers to turn up.
Yeah.
Stalkers, Crimson Court, and Reapers.
I reckon it will be mostly... I reckon it will mostly be the Fish Elves, Reapers, and the Starblood Stalkers will do the best. Because I reckon the Starblood Stalkers and the Reapers and possibly the Fish Elves, I don't know about those so much, but only because they're new. But I think the Reapers and the Starblood Stalkers have both got shenanigans aplenty.
Yeah, I have to say, I think the warbands this season have been great. Even when I haven't really liked the models that much, I think the way they play has all been brilliant. Or not brilliant, but all fascinating. I think there's been some criticism that it's overcomplicated, but I think it's... I mean, I guess if you're new to the game, maybe it's a little bit complicated. But I think they haven't complicated for the sake of it. They've kind of... I think they've thought... We'll probably talk about this more in the Soulraid, but I think they've thought quite deeply about how to make the game interesting. There's a few things I'm perhaps not keen on, but I generally think, at least at their base, the new warbands are all very interesting.
They've all got their own little thing. They've all got something special about them. I think they've managed to mostly make it quite good that none of their abilities, their things, is too overpowering or over the top or game breaking or anything like that. I think their main problem now is still the fact that they have just some slightly woolly card interactions and timings on reactions, like when you're at the end of an activation, when you're at the end of an action, when the sequence between inspiring, scoring objectives, that kind of thing. That window is still a bit blurred, and I know they cleared some of it up in an FAQ at one point where it was like reaction, inspiration, score objectives or something like that, or it might be inspire, react, score objectives maybe. But whichever way around it is, it's like it's not in the...
It made your point brilliantly.
Exactly. It's not in the rule book.
I'm just busy trying to work out why my pop-out chat isn't working. so it's stopped working. So I don't know what any of you are saying anymore.
So
unless nobody's listening.
So that's the main thing, I think. Primacy needs clarified, says Drop Bear, which I agree with. I think that needs to be clarified as to where that comes in the sequence. I think that sequence in general just needs to be like they did with the combat sequence. They put a flowchart in for that to show you exactly what goes where, so you can tell where you are in the process. And I think a lot of people still ask questions like, if I do this and I fail my attack, do I still do the after damage step? And it's like, well, if you look at the flowchart, no, because when it says you fail, you just go to end the attack. You don't go to the deal damage step because you failed. So I think they need something similar to that for the...
Yeah, I think it is straightforward, but it's a little bit counterintuitive if you don't know what it is, if that makes sense. They do need to it needs to be almost like rubber stamped on the back of the book. It needs to,
you need to, where they've broken down, where they show you the turn sequences and you've got the activations and the action phase and then you've got the end phase and all that kind of stuff. They just need to put a bit in there that shows you an activation and how the end of that's broken down between reactions and stuff. So when it says after an activation, like with the Snarlfang's attack, you know where that comes in the process of scoring objectives and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, primacy must come before scoring objectives.
You would assume so, because it's going to be very hard.
Otherwise, I'm not sure you could ever score Surge of Aggression.
That's very true. That is very well. You could score
it
by using.
You could using the other method, but you couldn't use it by capturing primacy.
Yeah, you couldn't do it by killing someone, for example. So yeah, that kind of thing you can then work out, but it should be implicit in the rulebook. I feel they should. Yeah,
and I think that's an issue which we have talked about before with the fact that primacy isn't even in the rulebook.
Yeah. So, yeah, which I can sort of see why, but at the same time, I don't like that fact, and I think they should have just put it in there. But yeah,
I think it's an omission that they shouldn't have done. No, I don't think there's any reason not to include it in there.
Valentin has asked a good question, which is, in previous years, when did they announce a new season? I think they start to tease it once the last warbands are out. So I'm expecting that we'll see something in like July, like a card art.
I remember if they even might have given the name away sometimes before even.
I remember they showed the Malkeen model from the Wild Hunt. They showed that off very shortly after the previous season had finished. And it was a good couple of months beforehand.
I can't remember when all the events are. There's Gen Con in the summer, isn't it? They show stuff at Gen Con. I don't know if there's any other events between now and Gen Con. I can't remember. That's when they tend to do them.
Yeah, I think we'll get some kind of either a card art or a spoiler or a model somewhere around July, and then I think August time is generally when they go, boom, here's the new box, isn't it crazy? And then it arrives in September.
Yes, we're probably in a comparable season to Nightvolt. Is that when did AOS come out in that summer and then Nightvolt arrived? I feel like we're in a comparable situation. And so I think I'm going to do a little video on it actually tomorrow, but I think that the new AOS Dominion box will inform what happens in season 5.
I think we're almost definitely going to get
dry, but I think so. Maybe there's once all the season 3 AOS hype is out of the way, then I think they'll start to talk about their other games.
I think the next Underworlds box it will have Skinny Cast and the Cruel Boys, whatever they're called. Is it Cruel Boys?
Cruel Boys, yeah.
I think they should have called them Moroks. They should have called them Moroks. So you've got Aurochs, and then these ones are like sneaky, so they're Mork ones, so they could have been Moroks.
Moroks.
Not
they're Hobgoblins, so they could have been Horrocks. They could have been like Jane Horrocks.
Horgoroks.
Not going to try and do an impersonation of.
But I think that's what we'll see in the next season. And as Dropfest pointed out, on our current format, we'll probably have season 5 in another 2 weeks.
The current schedule, season 5 is already out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
Morris Knox says he thinks the new Stormcast warband with models from the new release. I'm hoping we get a mix.
So I'm not saying anything whether I think that's what's going to happen.
If they look like the skinny cast that they've done, I might actually be quite interested in them because I think they look miles better than the old Stormcast. And if they do a mixture, like they have one of those big beefy boys, and then they have maybe one with a spear and something else, then I could see me being all over that. Whereas in previous releases, I've seen Stormcast and I've been like,
They're very Space Marine, aren't they? But the new ones aren't.
The new ones look more gladiatorial. They've got like the 300 kind of washerboard abs armour, that kind of thing going on. But I prefer that. The old ones, when you look...
I get a clue if they do starter boxes like they did for AOS 2nd edition, and they've done them with for 40k, haven't they? And those sometimes have, I don't know if they have the same models because obviously the Underworlds have sculpted bases, whereas the core sets don't tend to have sculpted bases. But I haven't seen. Do any of the new miniatures have sculpted bases? I don't think they do, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't have them. They decided to bring them out.
Morris Knox wonders whether we'll get a Cities of Sigmar warband. I wouldn't.
That is my hope, but I don't think we will. I hope we will. They're kind of leaning because they've got these new kind of big moving city things, haven't they? Almost like these crusading city things.
Big moving city things?
Dominion, yeah. Have you not been reading the lore stuff?
No.
Okay, so they basically, as far as I did read it a week or so ago, but they basically have these crusading cities, effectively, that are like, no, they're not cities, but well, I don't know. They are. I'm going to go and look for it now. But they kind of go to set up new outposts, and so they're travelling outposts effectively. So that you could have a City of Sigmar warband on the move.
So they sort of put a box down and pull a wire, and then suddenly all these buildings and walls spring out of it and stuff, and it all springs up.
Pretty much. I'm going to see if I can find it. You talk to the viewers, Pete.
Gavin says that he was just listening to podcast in the car, and they thought definitely City of Sigmar minis coming. I mean, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. Who was that? Which podcast were you listening to, Gavin? Was that a Warhammer one?
I think it would be great. I don't know. I mean, so definitely, I suppose that there's one of the few things that haven't been used yet.
And they have released those, like the Vampire Hunter models recently, which do look rather nice.
Yeah.
So maybe, but I don't think it's going to be. If they do like a City of Sigmar thing, I think it's going to be like a Banoffee tracker, a steampunk dwarf, one Empire guy with something weird going on. I don't know if it's going to be like a proper Cities of Sigmar sort of thing. Don't know.
Yeah. No. Well. Yeah. I think you're probably right there.
In that case, does it count to Chaos Dwarves as they tie into Dominion? I mean, throw them dice, yeah, that is true. There has been murmurings of Chaos Dwarves, and they did completely blat the entire line of Chaos Dwarves from Forge World last year, so maybe Chaos Dwarves are coming back? Gary Scott says the unlucky...
Chaos Dwarves is one of the things that's going to appear in my video that I haven't made yet. I've been trying to make it. The Mighty Storm Keeps, I think is what it is. And Dawnbringer Crusades, great caravans of exploration, seeking to found new cities.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a picture of it. It's not quite a city, but there's a picture of them all on the move. So it's interesting. That is. I shall put the link in the.
Drop Bear speaks the truth. He says more Skaven needed, and I agree with him. I wonder if we might see a new Clan Skyer Skaven warband with a Warlock Engineer and. Maybe one of those Rat Ogre Primaris things with machine guns for hands and stuff like that. Maybe.
I think we'll see some Skaven.
We better bloody.
I think we'll see some Thrall Boys.
Yeah.
And some some Hobgrots.
Hobgoblins.
And Hobgoblins. Yeah, and.
Well, I guess this will be a whole subject for discussion after the fish elves come out, because there'll be nothing more to talk about. So we'll have to start.
That's very true. Yeah, we're talking about it tonight. We shouldn't be talking about it tonight. We should be talking about the fish elves. Although I think most people have talked about the fish elves, and our opinion is probably of lesser interest. But
possibly
we never let that stop us before.
Never let that stop us before. So should we crash on with the fish elves then?
Yeah.
Let's chat fish elves. Let's talk about fish elves, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Sorry. Let me bring up the screen share.
Fish elves.
The fish elves. They're fish and elves. The fish elves. Are they fish shelves? Or anyway. Right. Let's bring them up. There we go. So there's the fish elves.
Fish elves, surely.
The fish elves. Seashells. So here we go. Here are the fish elves. So there's a 5-fighter warband. I think that the main... They've got some shenanigans, which is interesting, I think.
Yeah, I mean, where to start? The models. I know you haven't got the models up. I like the models in the main.
The leader seems really complex in comparison to most people. He's got like loads going on him.
Who's that? Elathain.
Elathain. Cellophane.
Using to wrap up your sandwiches.
Exactly. Oh dear, Cellophane. You've already got a stupid name and you haven't even been on the table yet. So there's Cellophane, who, I mean, he's got a decent attack. He's got a 3 hammer 2 damage attack, which has the Soul Harvest ability, which means if he kills somebody, he can resurrect Tamael, which is quite handy.
That Tamael. I do not like that Tamael.
Why am I trying to... Tamale. Yeah, that's what I keep thinking of when I think of Tamael. I just keep thinking of Tamale.
I so the thing I really like about them, I really like their inspire mechanic and
Yes.
their uninspire mechanic, which is pretty unusual.
They're one of the first warbands. Oh, they are the first warband, I think, that does this inspire uninspire thing, which is quite funky.
Yeah. There's a few that inspire all at once, and a few that inspire. I don't think there's anybody who just inspires as easily as into the second round. But
you've got the Blade Coven that inspire at the end of the third, but that's it.
Yeah. But it's just so deliciously thematic. I just really like it. I don't know how good it is in game terms, and I think there has been some grumbling that these aren't all that in the competitive scene. But
and a bag of potato chips.
Frankly,
competitive schmetitive.
They're interesting.
Exactly.
I think one thing that marks out the Underworld's community is that it likes to play interesting warbands rather than not everybody, but most of us like to play the interesting warbands rather than the solidly good ones.
Yeah. I mean, the boss man's, he's got solid stats. He's got a 3 hammer, 2 damage attack, and a 3 range, 2 sword, 1 damage attack, both of which can be used to resurrect Tamale. He's got 4 move, 4 wounds, 1 shield. It goes up to 5 move when he's inspired, and 3 swords on his attack. He also has
cleaving in snare.
Yeah, I mean, he does get a bit mental, doesn't he?
3 hammers, cleaving in snare is pretty nice.
That is really nice. I mean, you're definitely going to be putting your great strengths and stuff like that on him, aren't you? He does get pretty tough. I do find it really interesting that round 2, that's what you're going to have. There's no, if I can inspire him, if I can do the right thing to get, whatever criteria it might be. It's just round 2, you're going to have a 3 hammer, 2 damage, cleaving in snare fighter who's just going to start wrecking face.
So you're going to be trying to do as many attacks as you possibly can in that round.
Yes. And
if assuming you're building in that way. I mean, they've got some tasty aggro stats. He has only got 1 shield, so he's definitely killable.
Yes.
And that could make things very tricky.
But he might also be worth putting. I can't remember which Savage card it is, but it's one that gives you +2 defense. +1 defense and -1 attack dice. With cleaving and snare, rolling 2 hammers, that ain't bad still.
Oh yeah, that's true. I was also thinking you'd also happily slap Savage Strength on him.
Yep.
because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, there is that way as well.
And of course they have the ability to move twice potentially.
Oh, do they?
Which is interesting. Well, some of them can. Flood Tide. The old Furane. So they all have it. Well, all the elves have it.
Well, they're not inspired. Interestingly. So Elathain has it when he's uninspired, but not when he's inspired.
No, I hadn't noticed that. Yeah.
So let's have a look at Furane. So he's got a 3 sword, 2 damage attack, and has 2 dodge, 3 wounds, and he has a Flood Tide ability. When activated, this fighter can make a move action or a charge action if it has 1 or fewer move tokens. So you could move him, and then you could, like you say, either move him again the second round, or you could then charge with them, which isn't bad.
Second activation, you mean?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. Which is, well, it's one of those things that sounds really cool. But I was thinking about it. I haven't really thought about how I would set these up. But there aren't very many times in the game where you think, I just want to move there and not attack, and then just sit there for a round, and then maybe I'll attack later. That doesn't happen very often. And the board isn't that big. So although there might be some objective grabbing or something you want to do with the move action, or it's a staged, it's a long bomb you can do, but it's a staged long bomb where you have to pause in the middle and let people hit you. So I don't know how good it will be.
As Valentin's pointed out beautifully, you could say this warband requires finesse. Very good. So it's very interesting how they could possibly go for a massive range. Although I find generally, even apart from when it's longboarding and you're stuck miles away, nearly all the rest of the time it's like speed doesn't generally become that big an issue because you're nearly always pretty close to your opponent most of the game.
Yeah. That's good. So, except when you want to grab an objective that's deep in your opponent's half.
Yeah, maybe
But
then.
even then. So I'd be interested to see how it plays. I suppose perhaps that means that these guys might tend to want to longboard their opponent, which won't make them very popular, because you can get to them.
Although
they can't easily get to you.
Although when you do that, obviously you can only activate 2 fighters throughout the whole round if you're going to move them and then move them again, or move them and then charge them. So
combine these with the Reapers, they'd be mental.
So that's Furane, and when he's inspired, he gets 3 hammers rather than 3 swords, which isn't bad, but that's it. He goes up to 2 shields instead of 2 dodge, which ain't too shabby. But he only gets that obviously for a round.
That's pretty good. I mean, these guys are accurate.
Yes, definitely accurate.
They must be one of the most accurate warbands, I would have thought.
With a number of dice to throw around, possibly. The next one we've got is Tamale. He's got the Flood Tide thing as well. His Riptide Harpoon's not bad. It's got a range 2, 2 hammers, 2 damage. Nothing to be sniffed at. And he has this special ability that when he hits you, instead of drive back, you can just push them 1 hex. So he's got the same sort of thing as Hadzu with his arrows.
You can do it on both his attacks, which is nice.
Yes.
They both have Riptide.
Because he's got the Riptide Harpoon, and then he's got a Throne Harpoon, which is a range 3, 3 sword, 1 damage attack. But that has Impact, which is +1 damage when he makes a charge. Interestingly, he doesn't lose it after he uses it.
No. That's the advantage of a harpoon. It's just a javelin. It's just Jagath's javelin with a string attached to it.
Yes, I think Jagathar got the short end of the stick there. Milo13 says morning from Australia. Sorry?
Better than getting the pointy end, I suppose.
That is true. Milo13 is on, says hello from Australia. G'day. He's excited for the Idoneth Deepkin guys. He thinks they'll be challenging to play. I think they might be. They're a bit brittle, because Tamale, once he inspires, he goes up to 2 dodge for round, which isn't too bad. He gets Ensnare on his harpoon, or both of his harpoon attacks, which is alright.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really gain much in the way of damage or anything.
No, he goes up to 2 dodge, which is not to be sniffed at. But and of course, he can be resurrected.
That is true.
By Elathain's Soul Harvest.
So once
is, again, it's one of those things. It could be great, but you've got to make an attack. It's not like a Scritch. It's good that you don't have to use an action for it, but you have got to kill somebody. Now, he's likely to be able to kill things.
With his stats, he should be all right against most warbands. Yeah. Maybe not Morgox, but other than that,
you're going to say it's one of those abilities that is much better in some matchups than it is in others.
Yes.
So yeah, Morgox is a tough ask for him there, but doable.
The thing you have to be careful with, I guess, here is that you'll kill things, resurrect Tamale, and just make sure you don't put him somewhere where he could then be killed again straight away. Yeah,
he does come back in your half.
That's true.
So and unless it's the middle turn, he can move twice. So he could. But as you've stated, that is two activations.
True.
It's hard to imagine a situation where towards the end of the game where you want to leave him out of the way and move him twice to get in.
Yeah. Drop bear does point.
Damage output. Yeah. Drop bear said, that's their kind of weakness, I suppose. They're accurate. But I in some ways, would always rather have an accurate warband than a slightly weaker one than a strong one, because it's much easier to pick up. Well, it was. I don't know if that's still true, because there's quite a lot of +1 dice cards knocking about now. But it always used to be quite hard to get those. And
I don't think there's as many +1 dice upgrades, though. There's some reroll upgrades, but I don't think there's many plus dice upgrades. No,
there's the new augmented limbs.
True.
+1 dice. And
there's also some of the silent things as well. If you take the silent ring and the silent sword and whatever else, you can get +1 dice there for some things. But yeah, there's not many.
And they're very powerful, but obviously less powerful for these guys because they've got the attack dice as damage they need, but they're very powerful for Morgox.
They've got some good range on them. Because, the boss band's got a range 3 attack, this guy's got a range 2 and a range 3 attack, so...
Yeah, you've got to be careful with Feral Symbiote in this warband.
Yes. I mean, you'd have to be a cretin to get Feral Symbiote wrong, though.
We would now. I don't think so.
So those are the main 3 elves, and then we come on to the fish and crab appetizers.
Fish and crab.
So we've got Dewing Claw. What you're doing? He's a bit. I don't know about him because he's got a movement of 3 and 2 shields uninspired, which is nice.
He's a crab.
He's a crab.
I think they need to know anything else. I mean, again, he's accurate.
Well, not uninspired. 2 swords uninspired.
No. But inspires to 3 swords with cleave.
Yeah, which is not too bad.
But it's only 2 damage. 2 shield off straight away, which is
not bad.
Fairly unusual. There aren't very many. Is there anything else that has 2 shield to begin with?
Yes. I'm sure there are a couple of things that have 2 shield start with. I mean, the Stalix Squig definitely does. And I think Hrothgorn, maybe?
I'm not sure. I can't remember. I'm not sure I count Stalix Squig.
Valentin says he thinks it might be better to pay for the +1 damage guaranteed than to pay for +1 dice, which may or may not work. So maybe having fights which are more accurate from the start might be better. Which is, yeah, true. Oh, yep, Glissette has 2 shields from the off. And she's on guard, so she's pretty nasty.
Glissette has 2 shields from the off?
No, I think she rolls 2 dodge, but she's on guard permanently, so...
I see, yeah.
So she's slightly better than 2 shields.
Yes.
I'm sure there's an elf. Doesn't one of my Irish purifiers have like 2 shields? Or something.
I don't know.
Banhanar or something.
There aren't very many things.
No, there's not many. That's true. That is definitely true.
And he can, he's a typical beast, so he can't it's objectives, but he also could scuttle, which could be interesting.
What a beast. Yes, he's got this funky scuttle ability.
After another friendly fighter's activation, push this fighter 1 hex closer to that fighter. So that's, it could help you with those supports, or just getting him into trouble, out of trouble, pushing him onto an objective. I know he can't hold it, but...
You can stop other people from holding it then, can't he?
Yeah. Exactly.
And whilst it's after the activation, so he can't assist in that attack, you might be able to shove him into a position where he can then help with the next attack that comes along afterwards.
Yeah. You can get him on guard on an objective. It'll be painful to move.
And 3 shields off the bat ain't bad. Sorry, 3 shields, 2 shields, and 3 swords once inspired ain't bad, is what I meant to say.
Yeah. And then you've got Spinefin, who the craziest model we've ever seen in Underworld, I think.
I think apart from Snurk, I think Spinefin becomes the new crazy weird model on the pitch.
Yeah, he's got a lot of text on his card.
Yeah, so the first thing you can sort of see is that he doesn't have an attack characteristic at all. He has 1 dodge and 1 wound, and it goes up to 2 dodge and 1 wound when he's inspired. And he has no move, which you might be sitting thinking, well, what bloody good is this fighter? He does that. It has this very weird... he's got 2 weird things. First one is the small fry ability, where you can decide not to set him up at the start. They cannot make actions, they cannot be given upgrades, they can't hold objectives. If they would be taken out of action, though, you remove it, and it's not actually counted as being taken out of action, so your opponent wouldn't get the primacy counter or glory or anything like that. So that's one thing.
Yeah, so I mean, it says that you wouldn't have to set them up at the beginning, but I can almost see that you might, because you can block lines in, and there's no point in your opponent really taking him out, and then you can move them because you can move them onto a shuttle counter.
Yeah. So I think it's nearly always worth having him on the board at the start.
He doesn't have to be dead in order to use the shell counter, so you can just move around the board.
Yes, and the shell counter is that after an opponent's power step, you can either remove all your friendly shell counters from the battlefield and place a shoal token in an empty hex. And that sounds a bit weird, as in how do you end up with multiple shoal counters? But it's just, I think, protective wording to ensure that there's no situation, even if you did end up in a situation where you have multiples on the board, you take them all off and then you place a new shoal counter in an empty hex. Or you can place this fighter in an empty hex, that contains a shoal token, and remove the token. And you can use this reaction. This is, I think, is the first in this case as well, that you can use this reaction even if the fighter is not on the battlefield.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, you can, for at the end of one of your opponent's activations, you can then either put a shoal token down, or you can put the spine fin onto a shoal token on the battlefield and remove that token. So it's like a double round to place the spine fin somewhere.
Yeah. There's a little bit of me which would be interesting to know whether they tested it, whether you could just put counters down and not put him down, whether they ever tested that. So you could choose to put him down, in which case you took all the other counters off. Whether you could like build up counters in a tactical way and then just he's going to go here. I'd love to know if they tested that, because I don't feel like it would be that OP, because you could still only put him down once, but to have different places where he could suddenly appear is quite appealing. But that isn't how they've done it, so we probably don't need to discuss it. But I just I feel like it's a shame.
It feels like that would have just given a little bit of nuance to it, to enable you to almost get your opponent to double guess where it's going to go. But maybe that gave you too many options then. You could slowly build up the counters over rounds or whatever, and I don't know.
It's the end of the game. You've got 12 counters on there. You never bring them on.
Exactly. But you made your opponent worry the entire time what you were going to do with them.
It's interesting. So a fighter which is almost entirely useless, but yet probably very useful.
Could possibly be.
Well, you can block objectives.
Yeah.
You can get assists left, right, and centre, assuming you can place him right.
True. Valentin has pointed out as well that it could be a good poison delivery system.
Yeah, definitely.
Just appear and then suddenly pump.
You just have to be adjacent, don't you?
Yeah, for a lot of those things. It also gives assists as well. So your opponent might be in a position where they know that if they charge, they're probably going to be looking at a shoal appearing next to the next turn, which is then going to give you some assists on that. Or they then charge onto where the token is to stop you doing that. But when you do that, they might be charging into a worse position.
Yeah. Yes. Could be useful with flip tech. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, what? Put them onto an objective and then play a card to flip the objective, maybe.
Yeah. Beating that beast grave.
So there's a lot of options, I think, for the spine fin. It could be one of those things that could be very useful, or if you're inept like me, you just never use it properly at all, and it just spends most of its time off the board.
Yeah, if you could put upgrades on him, he'd be like a shoe-in for Feed the Beast Grave, because you could just put lethal snares on him and just keep clicking him down the board.
I feel if you could give him upgrades, he'd have to then start to give glory and primacy when you killed him.
Yeah, he'd be a nightmare if you could have upgrades.
Yeah, that's true. So I like the fact that he's this little extra thing that just flits around and is a bit annoying, but isn't game-breaking.
And I love the model. I think the model is fab. I haven't seen everybody's talking about the crab. The crab is cool, but I actually really like the fish, and I think I've said this before, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what everybody does with the fish, paint-wise.
There's a fish called, not Wanda. There's a fish that's like, it's black, but the very edge around its fin is like a very bright red, and it looks like when it's in a tank with a dark background and you're looking at its side, it just looks like this red blazing outline of a fish, and it looks really nice. I'd like to see somebody paint it up like that. Anyway, let me get rid of that screen. So we're back. Hello.
I think they're cool.
I think overall they're going to be really cool. I think they're going to be fun to play.
What I think is one of the most interesting Gambit cards we've seen in a while, which is in the article, is the next thing down after the Fury of the Storm. So in the article on Warhammer Community, there's a few choice cards. Fury of the Storm. Play this only in the third round. Each surviving friendly fighter is inspired unless another player discards 2 power cards, in which case nothing happens. And that's a design space they haven't explored before, and I really like it.
Being somebody who's only just started to pick up a little bit of Pokemon because my youngest has decided he's now into Pokemon, so that's something that I need to get into as well, because that's about the only way I think I'm going to be able to get him into card gaming and stuff like that. There's a lot of things in that about, you know, picking up cards or discarding cards to do things, and I think that that's definitely something that they need to work on more in Underworlds. That sort of tech of... There is one, which is I think you can discard the card to reduce the damage by 1, or for every upgrade you discard, you reduce the damage by 1. I quite like that idea. But
yeah, there's a few more cards this season which can destroy upgrades.
Yeah.
Which is good.
I'm trying to think of how many cards there are now which are... Yeah, like play this card and you then can discard cards from your hand to make something happen. I don't know if there's many of those yet.
Yeah, it's either to make your effect better or to ruin your opponent's day. There's a definite trade-off. There's a definite trade-off here between what you want to do. I don't know. It would depend on the circumstances, I think. So, you know, they're pretty strong inspired, especially if there's a lot of them left.
Especially the boss with his ensnare and cleave.
Because, you know, they're much more hard to kill when they're inspired. But 2 power cards at the end of the game could be sort of brutal. I'm trying to think. I mean, in some ways, at the beginning of the third turn, you've probably got 5 in your hand. Maybe it wouldn't be too bad.
But even then, I mean, generally, whatever 5 cards you've got in your hand, you need them all. It's very rare that you're sitting there with 5 cards thinking, well, I don't need most of these. I just need this one or something like that. So.
I was thinking in some ways in the third, because only in the third turn. Sometimes in games, by the time you've got to the third turn, you've got your clutch upgrades on whatever was going to come out, and there could be some killer ploys. But because there's 3, you could spread them about. You're unlikely to have 5 cards that are all going to be useful by the time the third turn comes around.
Possibly.
Especially if you've built some redundancy into your deck to try and make sure you've got what you want to come out. Although if you're like me, you keep drawing 5 upgrades at the beginning, and you perhaps not.
Gavin's gone to bed. Good night, Gavin.
League games this season have been irritating to say the least.
Drop best
upgrades, and then they're drawing them all in the beginning, and then having to throw them all away. They're not having them in the game.
I had that in, I think, my games in season 1 when
Gavin's off to bed.
I think I had that in my season 1 games with my Wormspat. I very often got like 4 upgrades or 5 upgrades at the start, and I was like, really? Come on. But
sometimes it doesn't matter, because I think there's quite nice knowing you're then going to draw into a lot of ploys, potentially, probably. I mean, okay, you don't always. But I just seem to have to throw away, like I say, not only was it upgrades, it was all the ones that made the fighters hunters. So I lost Savage Visage and Savage Strength, which are all pretty vital to how the spoilers play, or how I was playing them. But that's just one of those things.
That's just the nature of card games, really.
Yeah.
Drop Bear did say, and I think this is the card I was thinking of, that there is a heal card where you can heal X damage when you discard X cards.
Yeah.
That kind of thing I like the idea of, because it's much more painful to you to have to get rid of cards than it is to get rid of, let's say, hunger tokens and stuff like that. There's a card score for having 4 upgrades, perfect for OP. Yeah.
That's the new one, isn't it? It's a new one.
Yeah, it's tempting. I might take it just so I know from then on I'll never get it and I'll never have 4 upgrades in my hand.
It's a bit of a warning shot type situation, isn't it?
Yeah. Take it so you know you'll never score it, but then it'll also negate you ever missing with your ranged attacks again. I mean, looking at their cards themselves, there's a few interesting ones. Ben Howard's in. Hello, Ben.
Hey, Ben. Hello.
There's a few interesting ones. There's not masses that are like clever for them, as far as I can see. It's not like the Mortex, where they were like they got the things which capitalise a lot more on the tithe counters and they're being able to move multiple fights and things like that. They've got things like take 2 fighters out of action, 2 fighters out to take an action in the previous round, take a fighter out of action when you charge. I like there's a score immediately one after an opponent discards a card from their hand in the action phase without playing it or scoring it. just quite a funky one. But the problem is it might still be quite situational, and you might never actually score it.
What was that one?
Smothered Memories, which is score immediately after an opponent discards a card from their hand in the action phase without playing it or scoring it. So it's obviously when you get rid of an objective to pick up a new one or something like that.
Right. Is that one of their cards?
Yeah, that's one of theirs.
Oh.
Do you get glory if you sing Under the Sea? Only if you dance at the same time. The actor who sung that song died recently, so obviously his spirit went into all of these crabs. There's like a surge score immediately after an activation if 3 or more friendly fighters are in enemy territory. They feel like they might be a bit brittle to want to try and do that with.
Yeah.
But then I always feel quite, unless I've got like a horde warband like Gits or Thorns or something like that, I always worry about getting too many fighters in the opposing half anyway, unless they're really tough. So yeah, it's always hard to call whether you want to do something like that with them.
They have Guardians of the Deep score this in end phase if no enemy fighters are in your territory. But I found in all my games that people were very keen to charge into my territory, so then it's really hard to score. Once you've got an Auroch standing in your territory, it's very hard to get rid of them.
Yeah, especially if it's Morgok, because those suckers don't move anywhere.
No.
What else have they got in here? I mean, they've got another one which is a surge for killing someone with your leader's range 1 attack, which I mean should be relatively easy with 3 hammers and cleave and ensnare. That should be a given.
But you have got to put him in harm's way.
Yes.
To score it. I'm not sure. I mean, it's one of those cards that in the right time it's brilliant, but in the wrong time it could force you into doing something that you don't want to do, or it could brick because you miss with your leader, and then it's a dead card. I'm always wary of those.
Yeah. Overall, I don't tend to take the do this thing with this specific fighter cards these days because it's caused me too much pain in the past. Or you're unfortunate, your leader gets taken. Yeah.
It bricks, and then you're left with the decision at the end of the. So if you get turn 1, you think, well, okay, I'll try and score it. You don't score it, and then you're left with the decision. Well, what do I do? Now, do I throw it away? I'll keep it. I'll probably, because he's inspired this turn. so I'm bound to score it, and then you miss again.
And then you miss, or your opponent gets first go and then kills your leader, and you're like, oh, well, fuck it then.
And so I'm not sure about that one.
Milo13 thinks that ultimately he thinks that these guys are a bit underpowered, not obviously powerful like Canaan's Reapers. I do think that they come after one of probably the most powerful looking warbands in the game. Valentin's got to go. Cheers for tuning in, Valentin. We'll catch you later. And do let us know when Straight Outta Shadespire July's one is up. And we will definitely be shouting that one out. So there's Tides of Death, which is 3 or more for a score in the end phase if 3 or more friendly fighters each have 1 or more charge tokens. Again, that might be, I don't know, that's fairly generic. It's only 1 glory again. Doesn't feel like it's worthwhile because there's, I mean, even I think it was Garrick's, they got 1 glory for a surge for making 3 charges. No, that was Magor's. So these guys only get it in the end phase if they still got
1 as well.
Yeah, so they only get it in the end phase if it's like 3 charge counters, which is harder to do because you might charge someone and then they might get killed.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a worse upgrade. That's a worse objective than season 1.
The advantage they have is that they have got this extra move, so potentially you could get somebody who isn't in range, and then charge. Whereas, there are circumstances with certain warbands and you just can't score it because you can't get into. If like Magor's, if you kill the people you've charged at the front, then your 3rd charge you can't make because you can't get to the back.
Yeah, there is that.
But I'm not sure I take it. I'm not sure I take any of them.
Joseph Bingham's in.
I'm not going to take the warband.
Joseph Bingham's in, like Joseph.
Cold Eye Killers is quite nice if you can make it work. It's 2 glory for killing things, which you're probably going to be trying to do.
Killing things. But that's 2 or war taken out in the preceding action phase. So if you're up against a 4-fighter warband or something,
that's the thing. Or Morgoks again. Everything comes down to if you're up against Morgoks.
Yeah, how much of a bad time are you going to have if Morgoth's on the pitch? The answer is a very bad time, regardless. Doesn't matter what you do. I think Milo's said that, yeah, pretty much that, like Morgwaith, when Morgoths came out and were clearly the better of the two warbands, I think these guys have possibly come out at the same time almost as the Canaan's Reapers.
I don't feel the disparity is quite so big.
Possibly
because
not.
I feel like these are better out of the box than Morgwaith, and the Reapers have some fragility, whereas I don't think Morgoths really do. And they're not, they're not perfect. They haven't won any major tournaments, as far as I know. Not that there've been any for them to win.
Because there haven't been any, so it's quite tough. Joseph Bigman says that he feels like his favourite bands this season are always the ones that are a bit of a short stick, like the Lizards and the Fish People. I think the Lizards are hella good. I think they've got loads of shenanigans.
The Lizards, I think, are going to be up there when proper tournaments happen again. I think the Lizards are going to be up there.
I think they've got proper shenanigans.
Glory quick.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. They've got the moving shenanigans about them. They've got Otter Packle that could really ruin your day. Yeah,
they've got the Claptrap, and just if the objective shenanigans isn't working, then Claptrap can just wreck face.
Yeah, just send him in to bite people's heads off. And you've got
VJ's up. Morning, VJ.
Hello, VJ.
More.
And they've got Kixie Taka. He's got the ability to reliably one ping damage people 4 hexes away or flip objectives, which is again very handy. Yeah, so I think the Lizards aren't a bad warband at all. Throw the dice at the
final in the big German tourney on Battle. There you go.
Who else was in the final?
Yeah,
be interesting to know. I mean, you've got to appreciate the fact that they have a ploy though that's called Brain Barnacles. So basically, choose 5 within 3 hexes. Just take that
for the name.
Yeah, pretty much. Choose 1 fighter within 3 hexes of one of yours. -1 move to a minimum of 0. In addition, choose a fighter within 1 hex of one or more friendly Idoneth. When the card is played, that fighter's attack actions have swords. This effect persists until the end of the round. That could be quite nasty. You could definitely use that with the fishies.
Yeah.
Or could you use that with the fishies because it's within 1 or more hexes of an Idoneth?
Yeah, I don't think it's an Idoneth, is it?
Are they an Idoneth? I'd have to look at the fighter card. No, they are not an Idoneth, so that's the only thing you can do there. But you could just run Tamali up, sacrifice him maybe, and hope that Elathain resurrects him.
Yeah. They've got Phantasmal Forms. A pretty juicy card. It's a shame it's only the next activation. I suppose it would be too good if it was for the rest of the round. But it's a juicy card.
They've got one really easy to score objective, which is an end phase card, but its score in an end phase is 2 or more friendly Idoneth are within 2 hexes of the same enemy fighter. That's pretty easy to pull off.
Yeah. Yeah, you should be scoring that really, unless you're dying a lot.
Yeah, that's true. 3rd round may be trickier, but again, Elathain might summon Tamali back, and then you're back onto a win again.
I do like Lure Light.
Sorry?
I do like Lure Light. Try saying that 3 times fast.
Do you like Lure Light? Lure Light.
There's an upgrade, but it's only for Elathain. But
Elathain.
when an enemy fighter is taken out of action, adjacent to that fighter, this fighter's player picks 1. You gain 1 glory, or that player discards 1 power card.
So again, this is that whole playing into the forcing your opponent to throw cards away aspect.
Yeah.
And I like that. They need to play more into that, I think.
Yeah, I think that would be, again, a decision to make. Could be big decisions, really.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to go as far as again, like I say, with Pokemon, because there's quite a few weird things in there, like do this thing and then play paper, scissors, stone, or rock, paper, scissors, sorry. And, if you win, then you can pick another 2 cards up, or that kind of thing. So it's not quite, I wouldn't expect it to ever get that point, but it would be good to have more do this and your opponent loses a card, or if they don't do this thing.
That's because there aren't any dice. So in this game, it would be on a roll of a crit, or
exactly.
on a sword they lose 1 card, on a hammer they roll 2, and a crit they lose 3 or something like that.
That kind of thing, yeah.
But, yeah.
Or like a hammer they lose 2, a sword they lose 1, on a crit you lose 1, or something like that. Get a bit more sort of card play into the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that aspect to it as well. They've got a nice solid reroll card. If they make a charge action, Unstoppable Fury, it's quite a nice basic one. There's the Voltane Eel, which is quite funky. 3 swords, 3 range, on a crit, give the target a move token. It's not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good if you can get the right time. Again, it's one of those ones that, it's restricted, and the thing that's good about it only happens, when you roll a crit.
But with 3 swords, that's like about 49% or something.
Yeah, but he's already got a 3 sword attack.
True, but I'm thinking this is good for the.
Would you use a upgrade slot to give somebody something which gives you a 50% chance of putting a move counter on?
There is Furane.
Maybe you would. You would, depending on how you're building it. But it's the sort of thing you've also got to have somebody you want to put a move token on when you're fighting. I just feel like it's not quite good enough to. It's never going to make the cut. The problem with about 75% of Underworld's cards, they're all quite interesting, but at the end of the day, they're not going to make the cut.
It could be funky in like a bit more of a control deck where you take loads of cards that can give your opponent move tokens, and then because whilst Elathain's got a range 3 attack and Tamali's got a range 3 attack, Furane's only got range 1, so he could benefit from something like that to give more of your fighters make ranged attacks.
Yeah, but that one's restricted.
Oh, is it bugger? Is that Elathain only? Yeah. I missed that. VJ says that he got his
second vaccination dose and he's feeling a bit knackered. I hope you feel better soon, VJ. I had mine, and actually I wasn't too bad for my second. I was a bit knocked out by the first, but my second wasn't too bad. But I had it on. We played with John Grant in the garage, which was great, having a guest in the garage. Those games are coming out soon. Pete's in the middle of. Have you done one already, or
I've already
in the middle of
one's already uploaded and ready to go on Friday. The second one will maybe also be ready to go, and possibly we'll put that one out on like the Sunday or the Monday, maybe.
Brilliant. So we had John Grant. We played a couple of games in the garage. So that was brilliant. I had my vaccination that day,
like about 45 minutes before.
I hope you get better soon, VJ. Because normally it's the first one, from what I gather. Anecdotally, it's the first one that does you.
I definitely had some feelings of naffness after the first one. For about 24 to 48 hours, from 24 to 48 hours. So I had a day of feeling fine, and then it kicked in.
I went up to London the day after, and the first time I've been to London since, possibly Christmas last year, and the year before. And I suddenly thought at the end of the day, God, I'm knackered. Why is that? It's like, oh yeah, I'm a vaccine.
Yeah, guests are visiting. I don't know if you saw, VJ, you probably haven't been up long, so you might not have seen it yet, but the studio now has plaster inside it. So have you rubbed the walls, Robin? I always find that by the time they finish plastering the walls, they're like glass. They're so smooth.
Do I need to go and do it? It's dark out there now. I can't go and do that now.
You have
to go find myself. Just displayed against the.
I remember when we had this place many years ago, we had the house replastered because the walls were a bit crap, and we went in to visit one day because we'd moved out whilst the builders were doing it all, and I went to one of the rooms that they just plastered and the walls were just like glassy smooth. I was just like, oh. But then of course you come back.
I'm running out there in the morning.
You have to try it just before he turns up. But then of course you go back the next day and then they put like the undercoat up with the rollers and stuff, and then it's sort of like all slightly textured. Like, no, I always want them to spray on the undercoat so it'd stay as smooth.
I'm going to have to go run out there in the morning now.
Just to try it.
I was very impressed. It was very comparatively warm here today, and it's an amazing job watching them do the plastering.
Plastering is a black art as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Watching them do that is just fantastic to watch. Anonymous Jeff says he thought we were talking about the Phantom Menace when he came and saying it's the first one that gets you down. And the second.
So they're Terror Knight Venom. Going back to the cards, the Terror Knight Venom could be good with the fish. Because you can, any fighter you're adjacent to, you can reroll attack dice and attack rolls for attack actions made by friendly fighters against that chosen fighter. So that's pretty good. Which will pop up the fish against somebody you want to get rid of, especially in turn 2, and then do that to them. It could be really good. Oh, VJ had Pfizer. I had AstraZeneca. So
I had that as well. I had AstraZeneca, so yeah, maybe. Who knows? There's some other interesting cards. Everything to Prove is a Surge hybrid. You score immediately after activation if an opponent has primacy token, or there's one or more surviving for any quarry and you have the primacy token. And that sounds like almost a guaranteed one to take, I would have thought.
Yeah.
It seems like very easy. Everyone excited for Senior Cray. It's called Everything to Prove. It's one of the generic ones. Universal ones, that's the word.
Again, I've talked about this before. I'm using the Games Workshop page, community page, and they bloody put the reverse
upside down for no real reason that I can think of.
No, I don't know why they do that.
There's a few more hunger cards in here, but again, I think there's no point in it. Like there's one hunger for supremacy, which is score an invasive 2 or more friendly fighters hold objectives, and each of those fighters has 1 or more hunger tokens. I'm not sure why you'd take that.
Right for the vampires, I suppose.
Maybe if you're playing a really dull vegan vampire deck and you just sit everyone at the back of the board.
I do like this Idoneth specific one. Cloud of Midnight. Choose one friendly fighter for the end of the next activation. The fighter can't be target of attack actions, cannot be chosen or to be damaged by gambits, and cannot be pushed.
It's a nice one.
There could be a time when that could be amazing.
Everybody's
excited for the crab, VJ.
What was that one called again?
Crab.
Senor Crab. What was the name of that card? That ploy?
Cloud of Midnight.
I mean, yeah, you just stick that guy on an objective that you know your opponent wants right at the end before they get that last charge in, and then you're just like, see you later. You ain't getting it. I mean, that's like multiple power cards that we've seen before, all in one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you actually planning on coming to the UK, Morph? So you're planning to come to the UK soon? I'm not sure why you'd want to. This place is a shell these days, but but if you do, if we're around, do come and play some Blitzbowl in the studio,
in the shed.
Yeah.
Jeff's off. Cheers, Jeff.
Bye.
See you soon.
Oh yes, and I was Jeff won our versatile terrain vouchers for our Patreon giveaway. Interesting, we haven't decided what we're going to do as the actual prize for the next one yet, but we have got the competition up already, which is ruin a card with a letter, or maybe not ruin a card, maybe improve a card with a letter, which I'm looking forward to. I mean, some of the results people have already posted on there are absolutely brilliant. Nobody's
come up with my entry yet.
Who were?
Well, I was going to enter. I'm going to keep it a secret until we reveal.
You have to see if there's any.
I totally would have won. Totally.
I mean, I keep thinking of ones and then people come up with them because I think their minds are just as smutty as mine. So yeah, what can you do about that?
There's Soultooth darts in the new cards. Can't beat a bit of darts.
Again, I'm not sure I'd bother ever taking darts in any form.
And I used to like taking shade glass darts and dark darts back in the day, but there were less long range weapons available in them days.
Yeah, that's true.
This one has ensnare, but there's no extra damage. Not bad with Frosty maybe, but no extra damage. And you can re-roll the standard re-roll for Soultooth.
But I don't think any of the Soultooth weapons. Oh, Soultooth dagger, but wasn't Soultooth dagger one of the only ones that ever got +1 damage on a crit? The daggers.
This shade glass dagger.
Yeah, I thought the other ones did too, but maybe not.
Shade glass dagger was pretty good.
Okay.
And the Shade Guard's weapons are the best, which is why they were most of them restricted, or some of them restricted.
I think it was the
Silent Braces. What does that do? It's another silent relic. I haven't actually read these because I was deliberately avoiding them.
The Silent Braces. There's a
They
quarry.
can move through blocked and occupied hexes, but must end their move in an empty hex. This fighter's move action begins in no one's territory. This fighter has +2 move for the duration of that action. +1 move if it has 2 or more silent relics. I'm not sure I'd take that one.
No, I think the other ones are better. Even the sword's better, I think, in that situation. You have to be in no man's land to use it, but generally there's always a bit of a scuffle going on in the middle, so you can get something going.
Soul-Tooth Net is pretty cool. Yeah, I quite like the Soul-Tooth Net. Don't think I've actually taken it yet, but I'd take a couple of them in my Vanguard Plus deck for the Despoilers, because you need those better.
Again, with like the net and stuff like that, you can get those kind of things into play and start getting move tokens on your opponent, and they just get a bit stuffed.
Yeah. But I usually, it's my usual thing of, well, what if I miss? If I miss, I've taken a crap weapon and then I've missed.
That's why you need multiple options to build in the redundancy.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Savage Hunger.
I believe there's a saying in London about something about dice, but I can't remember what it is.
Savage Hunger is a bit of a naff one. Again, it like relies on you having hunger tokens, and then your range 1 attacks have Ensnare. I mean, there is a lot more dodge going on these days, so Ensnare is not bad, but getting hunger tokens.
Game's dodgier than it used to be. Impressive bulk.
Ooh,
it's like a less good version of Sudden Growth. Or maybe a better version.
That was not so bad. I don't mind that one so much. -1 move, but +1 wounds.
Yeah.
I think I'd possibly take that over. I don't know. I might possibly think about taking that one more often. -1 move generally isn't that big an issue.
I think people will definitely take it. Anything to get extra wounds.
Yeah, but then I guess with the essentials pack out, it's like, why bother? I've got great fortitude. Experience die. This fighter is a hunter. You can reroll 1 attack action, 1 attack dice in each of this fight's attack rolls for each instance of the quarry keyword on the target's fighter cards and upgrades. Possibly a little useful. There's a few more cards that people take to make them quarries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not so bad. Master
Commander is almost a great card, but it's a whole action. I'm not sure it's worth it. Discard the primacy token. If you do, push each other surviving friendly fighter up to 1 hex. If this fighter was taken out of action, discard the primacy token.
That's not too bad.
I just feel like, because it's an action, I mean, I think it's potentially great, depending on what you're trying to do, I suppose. But because it's an action, it's one I'm always, well, I could do this nifty thing, or I could just make an attack.
That feels more like a objective shenanigansy kind of card upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But you can't use it. You can't use it when, so like to the end of a turn when you've been pushed off your objectives. You can't use it.
Yeah. No, true.
And you have to have the primacy token to make it work.
There is that.
Varclav in disguise only better. Well, that's true. Varclav was pretty good. Maybe except you can only, obviously you can only do it. It's limited to when you have the primacy token, which is probably likely to be once a turn. Maybe it's good for. I think it's quite good for horde warbands, but then it's harder for them to get the primacy token.
But generally, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's an interesting one. Definitely can see.
There are definitely some builds in there that might be useful where you've got that one where you can, at the end of the activation, if you're claim to supremacy. So if you're on more objectives than your opponent, then you get the primacy token. So you can discard the primacy token, push people onto objectives and get it back again, and which is potentially interesting.
It's one of the funky things around supremacy, obviously, with primacy is obviously if you're on 4 objectives, you just get it back. So if your opponent can't knock somebody off at the end of a round.
Yeah.
Or even if they do.
Twice.
Yeah, or,
you
yeah,
even
even
if you know.
yeah,
Sorry.
or if they you can get it twice, like you say, or if you can't, if you do knock somebody off, but you've got something like this where you can then push people back on again. It then just means that it just keeps stifling them. So there is that aspect which is quite funky.
You could win it twice to get winning pride.
Yeah.
And then there's another one for if you're on an objective in your opponent's territory and you discard the primacy token, you can. That's a surge objective.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So
Potential.
There's possible.
There aren't very many reliable ways of discarding the primacy token. Because I quite like that card if you're on a rejected in your opponent's half and you discard the primacy token. You're not allowed just to discard it.
If you have the primacy token and your opponent kills somebody, so they take it, is that you discard it?
Yeah, you don't discard it then.
Oh, okay. You do have to actually do something to just get rid of it rather than losing it effectively. Yeah,
there are a few ways to do it, but I mean, obviously, if you're standing at an objective at the end of your opponent's turn, at the end of the round, I mean, you discard it, and you have got the prize token. You do discard it during the end phase, so then you could score it, which is weird. It's a weird time to score the card because you score a surge objective at the very end of the end phase.
Master Duelist.
It's always worth taking just to do that.
Master Duelist has the possibility to be a filthy card. So discard the primacy. Yeah, it's an action. Discard the primacy token. If you do this, fighter makes a range 1 or 2 attack with +2 dice.
What?
So you could, if you've got a beefed up fighter, charges in, kills someone, gets you the primacy token. Your opponent does something. Next round, use that.
They can't charge in.
That's true.
But yeah, it is potentially very, very filthy. But if you use Master Commander to push them up, and then next round, that is.
Because rather than making a regular attack, you can use that because then that gets you the +2 dice. Because there was a card in Shadespire which was like total offense or something, which meant you could make the attack with +2 dice, but then you got a charge counter, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, you couldn't be used again. Couldn't be activated again, could you? That's a really nice. It's an interesting card, that one, and I can see. I mean, like the Mad Mob probably want that card.
I could definitely.
It helps them inspire as well because they can win the primacy token, inspire somebody.
Use that to discard it.
Kill somebody with their +2 dice.
Yeah, 2
and then
stack
get it
or
back
something.
again.
Yeah, Master Duels could be very nasty with someone like Hrothgorn or Special K as well, or even Mollog. Could be very dangerous.
I do like the art for Experienced Die. It's pretty funky.
I'm hoping that they do adopt the new artwork in the next season, as per the Essentials pack.
I can't believe they would have deliberately chosen to do those artwork differently if they weren't planning on moving the whole game over to that.
I just read
a crazy decision.
I've just read the flavour text for Impressive Bulk. If you read the flavour text, it just says, "Look at the size of that thing."
Excellent.
Oh dear. So yeah, there's some interesting cards in here. I'm liking. I mean, it's really annoying that they haven't brought some of these master cards out until the very end of the game. But yeah, what can you do in this situation? Ooh, Rampaging Killer's funky. This fighter is a hunter and a quarry. This fighter's range 1 attack actions have scything. After each super action made by this fighter, deal 2 damage to this fighter. That could be. I mean, Mollog's ranged has to be range 1 attack, but even then, suddenly getting Hrothgorn with a scything attack on his hunting dagger could be brutal.
Yeah. No. You've got. Is it worth the 2 damage?
Well,
push you down into 1-shot territory potentially.
Possibly, but you might have a fighter with such a dirty range 1, possibly 3-4 hammer, 2-3 damage attack. You could end up wiping out multiple opponents with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some interesting cards in there. The fish elves, I'm scything on Soultooth Dagger, for example. That could mess up quite a few people.
Yeah. Scything on Soultooth Dagger. Yeah.
So I'm not
Tooth
sure.
Dagger or the Soultooth Dagger?
Soultooth Dagger. Or just Tooth Dagger. I mean, he can
Tooth
be
Dagger.
quite disgraceful.
Oh, what's his name? Has he got range? He's only range 1, isn't he? Oh no, it is Tooth Dagger. Sorry, I always get Wallop and Tooth Dagger muddled up.
Wallops is ranged 1 as well, though, isn't it? I thought.
Would you lose 2? Yeah, I think he is. But it's Tooth Dagger rolls 4 swords, isn't it?
Yeah.
Would you lose 2 health and then gain 1 if you were a Dread Pageant?
Not the first time round, because I think you lose the 2 wounds after the super action. So you would do all your attacks, and afterwards you would then lose 2 wounds. If you then the next round did it again, you would be able to kill someone, gain a wound back, kill someone, gain a wound back, and then lose 2 at the end of the super action again. So you could possibly keep, offsetting it, maybe.
I can't remember how the reaction works. I've never played. Still haven't played the
It's after the deal damage step. So you could possibly gain all your wounds back if you were exceptionally fortunate in that situation. Well, there we go. I think it's probably a good time to call it there, as it's 11 o'clock.
Yes.
The Fish Elves are going to be interesting to play. I'm not 100% sure if they're going to be better than Canaan's Reapers. I feel that Canaan's possibly just came...
No, I don't think they are. The Reapers have the ability to rack up, as we know, a lot of glory, but particularly against people who get resurrected. But they're not as good, because I can't remember the exact stats, but the Mortex themselves aren't that bad in the Reapers. I think they're not quite as good as...
Multiples get 2 shields once they're inspired as well, of the Mortex.
But they've got those cards that give them all that action economy.
Yeah, that's definitely something that they have head and shoulders over everybody.
They both have inspiration quirks.
Mm.
So the Mortex, you've got to get those tithe counters, otherwise you're not getting inspired. But these guys, obviously, turn three could be tough for them.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to play that, but it's not very often. Your warband is worse in turn 3 than it was for the rest of the game. Well, not the rest of the game, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is a really, it's a really interesting mechanic, but it's you're used to what fighters you have left being better than they were at the start of the game.
Yeah, the other problem.
Depending on what upgrades you've got on, they're not going to be, they're going to be going off their base stats, which is unusual.
The other problem you have as well is, whilst you've got that card which can inspire them in round 3 as well, if your opponent discards some cards, is you might not get that out.
No.
So
no,
that is
or it might come out in turn 1. Do you carry it all the way through? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's tricky. So there we go. Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying them though, because I'm definitely much more up for just your more generic, well, not your more generic, your more funky warbands these days, rather than previous seasons where it's just been generic.
The opposite of generic. Yeah.
Yes.
Ungeneric.
And generic.
I don't think these cards are particularly great. They haven't got brilliant faction cards on there. I don't think the universals are massively great. There's nothing there that makes me think, I should definitely take that card.
There's a few where you sit and think, well, that could be funky if you could do this with it. So
there's a few duelist that'd be interesting to try out.
Yeah. But other than that, I don't think there's many must-haves unless we missed some. We might have missed a few, possibly. But yeah, there's nothing that immediately jumps out as like the new Vision of Glories or whatever.
The Mask of the Silent People is interesting. Another Silent Relic. Fighter is a quarry. This fighter is a quarry. Each enemy fighter is a quarry. Interesting if you're building into some quarry stuff. I haven't looked whether there's viable quarry options. That feels like there probably is now. I don't know whether there's enough upgrades to support it, but a quarry build. So definitely a hunter build, but whether there's a viable quarry build now, I'm not sure. Wait and see. It's a sort of thing. That sounds like an Andrew Marlowe thing to experiment with.
Go on, Marlowe. When you're not looking after your other half, go and come up with something for us. Make it happen.
I missed that. Yeah, so I hope she's okay, Andrew, and we'll do watch it later. Back it'll be there. Great for Slate Slash. Yes.
Could possibly be.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we shall off, I think, now, and we shall see you soon in the Direchasms. Do stay safe, everyone. Hopefully everyone gets their vaccinations and everything keeps opening up and more gaming going on. And hopefully in a few more, it could only be a few more weeks with the way things are going. The studio might be ready.
Yeah, that'd be great. You're going to come round then, do it from the studio.
Well, we could, possibly. You never know. Might be easy.
It's further to my house than it is to your study, though.
That is true. There is swings and roundabouts in this scenario. So yeah, we'll have to see. I think. So thank you all for tuning in.
Might be able to discuss Dominion. If we want to.
Yeah, we might have a bit of a chat about Dominion. What season 5 may bring as a result of Dominion.
Yeah,
and
hopefully
stuff
I'll
like
have my random musings about season 5 video out by then, so that'll be something to everybody to whet people's appetite and come back next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope you're all alright. I hope those who've had their jabs and are feeling lousy feel a bit better, and I hope people with other halves aren't feeling that great. I hope they feel better too. So yeah, keep safe everyone, and we'll see you all soon.
Bye.